Say It's Life of Riley is back Wednesday at 8:30 on BBC One and BBC One HD.
Now on BBC One, the story of the biggest and brightest festival in the Sikh calendar. This week, cities across Britain will come alive to the sights and sounds of huge, colourful and joyous parades.
There was a martial arts display, there was celebrations and singing.
It's a great family occasion.
This is Vaisakhi, a vivid global festival for which Britain's 500,000 strong Sikh community take to the streets to celebrate their holiest day of the year.
It's very much recognised as the birth of the Sikh nation.
It's very important not just to celebrate for the sake of celebrating, but to celebrate and remember what has happened in the past.
But what is the true meaning of Vaisakhi, and how did its sacred teachings ensure that Sikhs stand out in a crowd?
I'm a Sikh. I will give my life, but not my turban.
And how are Vaisakhi's moral codes and spiritual values being lived out today by Sikhs in Britain?
You become a warrior and not a warrior.
For the origins of Vaisakhi, we have to delve back to ancient times and a harvest festival celebrated in the Punjab state in India. On this day, at the start of spring, Punjabis traditionally give thanks to God for a good harvest and to mark the start of the new solar year.
In the Bikrami calendar, the Indian calendar, Vaisakhi is the first month, and on the back of the harvest festival, the farmers used to celebrate big time because it was a time when they essentially received their rewards for all their years' hard labour.
It's a time of new beginning, celebrated across India. There were lots of festivities, probably some sporting events.
In many parts of India, Vaisakhi is traditionally marked by ritualistic bathing in sacred rivers. In the 15th century, in the Indian state of Punjab, the Sikhs' first guru, or spiritual leader, established the Sikh faith, a new monotheistic religion which asserted that man's salvation lay in his faith, his character, and his eagerness to do good, along with a respect for followers of other religions.
The religion was founded by Guru Nanak, who emphasised at the very beginning of the need for respect for all religions. He felt that God was not interested in religious labels, that God was looking at the purity of our heart and our souls. He even went as far as saying, there is no Muslim, there is no Hindu, na koi Hindu, na koi Musliman, there is just the human being.
This new faith attracted growing numbers of followers in northern India over the next 2 centuries. But by the late 1600s, the Sikhs, now led by the 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, feared that their religion was in danger of being totally wiped out. India's Mughal rulers were threatening the right of all non-Muslims from practicing their faith. So Guru Gobind Singh decided it was imperative that Sikhs be prepared to fight back, as well as adopting an instantly recognisable look to help them stand apart from India's Hindus and Muslims. To prove his point, he came up with a daring plan to test their devotion. On the day of Vaisakhi in 1699, Sikhs from all over the Punjab had gathered to celebrate the harvest festival and listen to their guru, Gobind Singh. He emerged from a tent carrying a long sword, which he pointed at the crowd. "Who among you will lay down their lives for God?" he asked. The crowd fell silent as Guru Gobind Singh repeated his question 3 times. Eventually, a young Sikh moved forward and disappeared into the tent with the Guru. Moments later, the Guru reappeared alone, his sword apparently dripping with blood. The crowd gasped, fearing the young man had been killed. Guru Gobind Singh asked for another volunteer and again disappeared into the tent, returning once more with his sword seemingly covered in blood. He repeated this a further 3 times until a total of 5 Sikhs had accompanied him into the tent. The crowd grew restless until eventually the Guru stepped out of the tent with all 5 young men alive and dressed identically. Guru Gobind Singh announced that these 5 men were special because they'd been prepared to die for their faith and would henceforth be known as the Panj Pyare, the 5 beloved ones. The Guru declared all Sikhs should follow their brave example. He then produced a steel bowl which he filled with water and sugar crystals and stirred the mixture with a double-edged sword while prayers were recited. Guru Gobind Singh named this mixture Amrit and sprinkled some on the beloved ones and gave them some to drink. He then asked them to do the same for him and proclaimed that by doing so, a group of baptized Sikhs had been formed, which would be known as the Khalsa. It's through this ceremony, which still takes place today, that Sikhs pledge to live a life of pure devotion to Sikh principles. The commitment to fight oppression while promising devotion to Sikh teachings gave rise to a concept known as Saint Soldier, emphasised by Guru Gobind Singh's proclamation that all Sikhs should pledge to observe the 5 Ks.
The 5 Ks have both a practical significance and a spiritual significance, which mirrors the whole Saint Soldier philosophy. Sikhs are encouraged to live a spiritual life whilst protecting others and fighting tyranny.
The first K is Kesh, meaning hair.
Hair is very, very important for Sikhs, not just for the value of the fact that we're growing it, but for the value of the fact that we're keeping it too. It gives us our prominence. We are easily identifiable by keeping our hair.
Guru Kaur is a London-based spiritual healer and teacher. She quit a high-flying job in the city over a decade ago and found fulfilment in Sikhism. She took Amrit at the Sikhs' holiest shrine, the Golden Temple complex, and is now devoted to wearing the 5 Ks.
Your strength is in your hair. I mean, that is just a fact. And if you cut your hair, you are really sabotaging yourself. And in my own experience, I've watched many people decide to let their hair grow and they become stronger, not just physically, but there is a radiance. It's your antenna to how you pick up what's going on in life.
We must keep our hair covered at all times, so it's not just a case of growing our hair. We must maintain it. So our Guru gave us the Ganga, which is a comb. So Kesh was our first K, Ganga was our second K, was to signify cleanliness.
The Gurdwara, small iron bangle, represents the cyclical nature of life.
This was a constant reminder that whatever we do in terms of physical acts, we're responsible for what we're doing. We mustn't do anything bad, and what we do, we must do for the good of mankind and for the good of others around us. Fourth came along the kashara, the undergarment that we wear. And it's a long, almost like a pair of shorts up to the knees. And these signify chastity.
The 5th and final K is Gurban, a ceremonial sword.
The Gurban, again, it came down as a formal representation to us and a reminder, constant reminder that we're here on this earth to protect those around us. And it's our responsibility to help those who need help, not just ourselves, but anyone around us too.
To further promote the notion of equality, Guru Gobind Singh proclaimed that all Sikh men should take the name Singh, the Punjabi word for lion, and women the name Kaur, meaning princess.
It channels the effort and the focus on non-discrimination. What we don't have is almost like a hierarchy dependent upon surname.
By giving the surname Kaur, which means princess, this was a very radical move, considering the time in India when practices such as sati existed, where a woman had to throw herself onto her husband's funeral pyre because her life was considered nothing without him. Women were encouraged to lead services by the gurus. And in modern day Britain, there is absolute equality. There isn't a single position in Sikh culture or society that a man can have that a woman can't have.
But there are many in the Sikh community who feel equality between the sexes is an ideal that hasn't been fulfilled in reality. Suki Dhanda is a photographer for the Observer newspaper and the creator of a Vaisakhi photo project shot in New York.
Sikhism, from my upbringing and from what I've observed and what I've experienced, men and women aren't equal. So the idea that Guru Gobind Singh, I'm sure he meant well, but I don't think in practice it's worked. I mean, I think that is a big area for improvement.
Sikhism could be deemed to be patriarchal, but it means that the women need to rise up to be princesses. If you want to be treated with respect, you need to be to behave with respect. And to behave in the Sikh way with respect is to behave as a princess, and that doesn't mean to be a high maintenance prima donna it means really, doing whatever is required no matter what. And maintaining your grace. All a woman has to do is maintain her dignity, her divinity and her grace.
In addition to the call for equality, on Vaisakhi in 1699, Guru Gobind Singh reiterated the need for every Sikh to provide seva.
In the community, we try and show our selflessness by doing seva, which is selfless service. When you go into a Gurdwara, what you'll see is not just people serving langar or free food, but also cooking it and also washing the dishes and also picking up the dirty dishes from the people who've finished eating. So the cycle of making, creating, serving and washing up and cleaning afterwards, it's all part of that community spirit. And no one is restricted to eating langar, and you'll sit in a pangat, which means you'll sit equally, whether you're a king or a pauper, you'll sit and be served in exactly the same way. And again, that emphasises the non-discrimination.
The concept of providing selfless service is lived out in Gurdwaras or Sikh temples around the world, where anyone, regardless of colour, race or faith, is welcome through the doors. In many British inner cities, this, along with the core Sikh value of standing up to injustice, is coming to the aid of those in the most desperate of need.
Behind me you can see that we're under a bridge, and we're under the M4 bridge here, where we've got about 12 homeless guys sleeping rough. If it wasn't for the local Gurdwara, the Sikh temples, providing langar, which is free food for these types of people, I think we would be in a far more serious situation with them.
For us, it's God's house, and the 4 doors are open to everybody and anybody, regardless of faith, colour, creed. Even if you're an atheist, everyone's welcome to have a free meal in the Gurdwara.
At the moment, they can go in, they can have breakfast, they can go in for lunch, they can go in for dinner. Nobody stops them, so there's free food for them all day long. There's certain Gurdwara working with the council to make shelters for the homeless, raising money, they're raising awareness. So there are Gurdwara around the country that are doing various things to help the homeless.
The warm reception Gurdwaras provide to non-Sikhs can be seen in the architecture of the Sikhs' holiest shrine, the Golden Temple in Amritsar, Punjab. Its 4 entrances represent a welcome to people from all 4 corners of the world.
The treatment of all people as equal, considering everyone as equal, that no one religion should have a monopoly of truth, and that there is good in everybody. And I think today, in our troubled times, we could learn a lot from those teachings.
But the road to equality for Sikhs in Britain was a rocky one.
When all the skies are grey.
The fight for respect and acceptance began with post-war immigration into Britain, as Indians began arriving to seek their fortune and plug the manual labour gaps in Britain's mills and foundries.
Tell that umbrella man he's just an also-ran.
Religious festivities remained low-key, as the tiny Sikh community celebrated its holiest days behind closed doors.
When a community first comes to a new country, there's a fear of looking different. How will they be treated? Best to keep yourself to yourself. And also there was a degree of discrimination.
When the lease of an old house falls vacant, a coloured man may take it up. Then other coloured folk swarm in and fill it to bursting point. They look different and they sound different, and their tastes in matters of food are different. They must have rice for curries. It's hard to break the habits of a lifetime and eat with forks and spoons, and curry has a very strong and very un-English smell.
When my father came in the late 50s, there was a lot of discrimination, and a lot of Sikhs chose to cut their hair.